Jalen Milroe. Where do I even start with this one? So if you're new here, I am a Crimson Tide fan, half Texas Tech, but mainly Alabama. I've been watching Tide since 2014 when Blake Sims was the quarterback, so this video kinda sucks to make. I really do want Milroe to work out, like I'm being honest, as I do wish for most Alabama quarterbacks. I mean, some were obvious they wouldn't amount to much, like Coker, who while he won us a national, championships don't always guarantee success, and I was even on the Mac Jones as a game manager train. Love that guy, but it was just the truth. Some quarterbacks you would look at and say they're gonna be something in the league. I've always had a decent feeling about Hurts, who stepped in when we needed him, made a comeback, winning us the SEC championship, showcasing leadership and the ability just to be clutch. Or hell, you had Bryce Young because his play style was hard to contain and was unpredictable. He was like the fucking Steph Curry of college football. And then you had Tua, who as much as it seems I give him hell, his accuracy and his throws were just damn near perfect. Like these guys all had special traits you would look at and you would consider future superstar. Another name I really wish I can include there at the moment is Jalen Milroe. Out of all the quarterbacks I've seen play for this team, he is perhaps one of the most talented with a high potential, but is also the biggest boom or bust prospect I think we've ever had. Like his ceiling, if he's properly developed, makes him one of the best quarterbacks in this draft, but his floor is what makes you question taking him because potential doesn't mean shit at the end of the day if he's not playing at his best. And that sucks to say because I was high on Milroe, I really was. I just really loved his game and I was just high on the player he was. I was really invested in it. Like once Bryce Young left and he stepped in, he showed you leadership. He showed you he had the tools to be an elite dual threat quarterback. And you could just see the love for the game he just had was just gigantic. Like it was just a recipe for future success. Like I'll fully admit, I will admit it when I say I was saying Milroe's going to be the #1 quarterback at the end of the 24 season for the 2025 NFL draft. So, you know, go ahead and call me a glazer. I'm admit it, I'm biased and I ain't embarrassed to say it. Or even a Heisman favorite for the following season after the Milroe miracle. Unfortunately, that would age like fine wine. My opinion would change. Like, I mean, it didn't even take one season. It took 4 weeks. He had the best 4-game start, especially with beating Georgia. Like the whole world was talking all about Jalen Milroe. And then after that, he started to slowly decline. I mean, you know, he had moments where it's like, oh, that's the Milroe I know. And then there's moments where it's like, did this motherfucker forget how to play football? It was more often than I would have liked. I will say, I appreciate his service and the games he helped us win. I will always respect him and wish nothing but the best here on out. But the games we lost were solely because of him. He was, if anything, he was more the problem than it was the offense. He's a very confusing prospect at best, perhaps the biggest mystery and the biggest risk in this year's draft. By risk, I mean when you draft him, you're going to take on a lot of development and issues that his game presents. To me, he's a jaw dropper for either the good reason or the bad, but that's alright because I mean that's exactly what a project is. Anyways, in this video I'm going to go over his pros, cons, give my overall thoughts, unbiased as possible where he should fall in this year's draft. Let me get this out of the way real quick before we start. Let me just say, if you are a team looking for a quarterback in this year's draft, you are undoubtedly fucked. I'm just saying, this is not a quarterback draft. This is a draft. Like, there's 3 solid picks. And if you can't get either one, then I honestly would not try for a quarterback. I think, honestly, there's a lot more projects. You know, there's more quantity than there is quality. Anyways, let's get into the pros. Let's start with size. For starters, he's 6'2", 270 pounds, which isn't ideal for him, being around the same size as Cam Warren Sanders, so nothing crazy there. Milroe showcases a blend of power and explosiveness in his game as a dual threat quarterback, which is what quickly attracts a lot of people to his game. Like for starters, I think this one's obvious. He's got elite speed. Okay, maybe throwing around the word elite is something crazy, but I'm gonna say he has killer speed. I mean, he's perhaps the fastest quarterback in this draft, and even in all of college football last season. That's not me even being biased. It's undeniable. He can run all over defenses. He's built like an above average sized running back with strength that allows him to shrug off tackles on the run and still maintain balance after contact. Now back to his speed. There is a recorded stat. He clocked 22.5 miles per hour against Arkansas and even on a 74-yard running touchdown in the LSU game where he went nearly for 200 rushing yards. Or against Georgia where he ran for 117, 104 against Auburn. I mean, with Milroe, if there's a gap in the pocket, he's going to explode right through it. That's why we have a lot of run plays drawn up in the game plan, is because we have Milroe. See, the only way I like to compare him to Jalen Hurts, this is the only comparison I like to draw between the two, is when you compare their rushing abilities, both can kill you on the run if you leave them open, as he amounted for 20 rushing touchdowns this season. With Milroe's game-changing speed and overall explosive athleticism, teams are going to take advantage of this because of how easy it'd be for him to make an explosive play on the ground. Another pro, Milroe would just have to be his natural arm strength. He's got a cannon for an arm that can release 50-yard throws like it's nothing straight out the flick of his wrist. He can do this with great touch and great velocity bossy. Like a few games I would like to point out where I've seen him do this with no effort would have to be against Texas last year with a 49-yard throw to Isaiah Bond on a 2nd and 11, or the Milroe miracle. That's a perfect example where his strength was tested. Or even Georgia this year to Ryan Williams for a touchdown late in the 4th, or even a Jalen Hill versus Ole Miss. After taking a big hit, he was still able to get the ball out in perfect timing with enough touch to fit it right into a very tight window with Hill facing double coverage. Like, I know a lot of people will say he's not an NFL quarterback, and I might say you can be right there because he does lack other skills. You cannot deny he's got the arm talent that can make just about any throw at the NFL level. And now for the weaknesses. So let's get the biggest one out the way that a lot of people have been pointing out, because I mean it's pretty damn obvious. That would really have to be his accuracy. Again, when your quarterback's best weapon isn't his accuracy or anything to do with his passing, but rather his legs, it's going to be a large concern at the next level. And as someone who's screened at my TV for the last couple of months because he can't complete a short to intermediate pass on a consistent level and isn't exactly much of a red zone threat unless it's a deep ball or him running it in. A few key events I would love to point out would just have to be the Combine, the Senior Bowl, the Bowl versus Michigan, or the Oklahoma game. Or hell, any game after the Georgia victory, he does it in all of them. He occasionally misses receivers with the ball either being too high, right behind the receiver, or too far near the sideline, making it just uncatchable. So anything up the middle or less than 30 yards, you have to just cross your fingers and hope he hits it. Because he has flashes, but it's just too inconsistent for any team to look at and say that's our future, at least at the moment. But if teams want an athletically gifted quarterback with fast legs, strong arm, poor accuracy, but has flashes, inconsistently, that player already exists in Justin Fields. He was someone who I believe needed another season, but both sides were clearly ready to move on. I mean, I know I was. I love the guy, but at the same time, I'm ready to see a whole new quarterback playing for Alabama. And secondly, would have to be his hand measurements. That's a giant red flag. You know, it's more giant than his actual hands are. So his hands measure exactly 8.5 inches, which falls under the 9 to 10 inch standard for most players. Which again, no current starting quarterback in the NFL as of now has smaller than 9-inch hands, and when drafted statistically, he will have the smallest hands for a quarterback since 2022 when Kenny Pickett was drafted. Now, how is this a problem? Well, small hands give concerns because it can be a giant risk factor, potentially can be a ball security issue and raise questions about his grip on the ball, which means can he really control the ball in tough weather conditions like rain or when it's cold, depending where he plays. Another problem I see with a lot of other quarterback prospects that I see in Milroe is he holds on to the ball way too damn long, usually passing up on a smaller play in front of him just to hunt for the big play down the field, and even when he's not hunting for a large play, he'll just stand there like a deer in headlights. Like a game I like to point out is the Tennessee game. Like he was just standing there too many times where it's just he didn't know what to do and didn't make a decision until it was too late, forcing in either a hurry, a sack, or an incompletion. So you could definitely say his awareness is also an issue in his game. Another problem with Milroe would have to be his ball placement. Again, I mean, you could look back at a lot of these games. Notably, a perfect example for me again would have to be the Tennessee game. I love to point this one out because this is one where Milroe struggled the most. Like when Milroe throws, sometimes the placement is not right where it needs to be, forcing receivers to adjust themselves to make contact with the ball, in which it's either overthrown or it's thrown too late. And with the placement on some of these throws, whether it's contested or right near the sideline, it limits any opportunities for receivers to get any additional yards after the catch. Alright, so now that I got the pros and cons out of the way, I'm going to give my overall thoughts on what I think will happen with Milroe. To me, it's obvious he's not going into first or the second, and if he does, the type of balls a front office would have to pull off such a move like that. The thing about Milroe that makes a lot of people want him is just because the potential is there. The tools are there. Most teams are looking at him and they're betting he hits a ceiling more than they are hoping he stays at his floor. It's like striking gold. Like, if I had to give him a fair comparison, I'm going to say he reminds me a lot of Malik Willis. A talented project who needs to be drafted to a team with a veteran, strong supporting cast, and more importantly, a team with a great developmental environment that will just help him grow and just reach his ceiling. And I compare him to Malik Willis because look what happened to Willis. Willis went to the Titans and was forced into a starting position after Tannehill got hurt. And go figure, he did a shit job when he was on the field because he had nothing to work with. And he still needed a major development in his game, in which the Titans ended up losing faith in him because of his performance. When truthfully, he wasn't even given a fair chance to grow into something more. A team like that needs to stay away from drafting guys like Milroe or Willis, for example, because if you aren't going to put in the work and have the patience to develop a player who is known to be a project coming into the draft and you expect quick results now, you are going to fail them. So with Milroe falling like in the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, Hell, anywhere in just the later rounds is just the best spot for me. Again, anything earlier in the 3rd round, or if he's taken above someone like Dart, that GM deserves to be curb stomped into the ground. Like around the 5th or 6th, I think this works out very well because he's not going to be expected to start as he should. Whereas if he went in the 1st round where teams are looking for starters now, and that's how you create another Anthony Richardson, and nobody wants that. Like, let's be real. Richardson should never touch the 1st round, and that's exactly why he failed, because he went so damn high, so high of expectations, and he was just a failure from the start. See, the good thing about Milroe going in the 5th, 6th, or maybe even 7th round is he has a really good chance to land on a team with everything he needs to help develop further as a project. One team I would love to see take Milroe would have to be the Detroit Lions. Look, the Lions interviewed him at the Combine, and with it sounding like it went great, it just makes complete sense. Goff is going to be 31 in October and has plenty of time left for the Lions to choose and develop someone under him. And with Hendon Hooker, the quarterback who was supposed to learn under Goff and become Detroit's next superstar, at least I think that's what they had in mind. I don't know what they planned with him, but Hooker just turned 27 and will be 20 at the end of next season, and appears to not be getting any younger or showing any signs his time is next up, with coaches even saying he was not ready. That's why they brought in Teddy Bridgewater. So I say swap out Hendon Hooker with Jalen Milroe, who's barely 22 and a much more explosive player with a higher ceiling. Having him develop under Jared Goff for like the next 2-3 years is a perfect move, especially in a stacked Lions offense that's full of young talent, like at the right value. He's a pick you cannot argue against. Somewhere in the 5th or the 6th, he's worth the chance. I'm just saying, Detroit definitely needs a quarterback too, and what better than drafting Jalen Milroe to try and be your next big thing. For my 2nd spot, I would have to say the Miami Dolphins. Well, I do think you cannot go wrong with Dart, Howard, Gabriel to Miami. If all 3 are taken and you find yourself in the 6th round and Milroe's still there, I'm 100% using the pick on him if I'm the Dolphins. Again, I keep saying this, but someone has to learn under Tua and learn what is left in his head. And what better than another Alabama alumni? I think for a low pick, if Miami could bring out Milroe's potential and make him a lethal threat in the pass and rush game, it solves their worries about needing a good backup behind Tua, with the chance of even being the starter if Tua gets another concussion. In a stacked offense, I think definitely he's a much better backup than fucking Skylar Thompson and whatever it is left to Tyler Huntley. Like, I'm just saying, if you want a good backup, I'm telling you, Milroe will not disappoint. And finally, the last team I could see taking Jalen Milroe would have to be the Las Vegas Raiders. Tell me this would not make sense. This is a damn power statement. So I'm recording this as of the Geno Smith trade has just happened. So I'm just saying, tell me this does not make perfect sense. They get the bridge quarterback, Geno Smith, someone Jalen can sit under for the next 2 years. It's like the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix thing. Like, I'm just saying, except the only difference is Penix went in the 1st round. You can get Milroe in the 4th or the 5th. Have him learn under Geno and then have him take over eventually. It's clear Vegas is trying to just load up on the offense. They're trying to load up on the defense. They're doing big signings. I'm just saying, you might as well take the chance on Jalen Milroe for that high risk with the high reward. And if he fails, you still have Geno Smith to fall back on, and then you have another chance eventually in the next like 2-3 years to draft then. If I wanted a young quarterback to learn under Geno and take advantage of this trade, I would definitely go Milroe, because I think he can definitely learn a lot under Geno. And especially being coached by Pete Carroll, it's a move that just makes sense. But anyways, that is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I really do believe in Milroe. I really do. This video seems like I'm dogging on him. Trust me, I'm not. I don't hate Milroe with any ounce of my heart. If anything, I really do want him to succeed. I want him to go to a good team, good program, a team that's going to just bring the best out of him, because I'm telling you, Milroe at his best is a quarterback you just love to see. I do plan on making more videos like this, talking about other draft prospects or even the other quarterbacks. You know, let me know a player down below you would want me to talk about. Anyways, I will see you all in the next random recap.